Welcome back. Now, energy goals and environmental concerns are almost always at odds, and Shell is no stranger to this tension. A recent court ruling prevents the energy group from drilling offshore for oil and gas discoveries, which could add much-needed jobs to the economy. Alwani Musaisi, country chair for Shell Downstream SA, joins us to explore the country's offshore energy potential and how a balance could be struck in terms of mitigating environmental impact while doing so. Alwani, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. And let's get to the issue at hand. Shell is facing resistance over, deep sea drilling in SA's off of SA's coast. What's the issue of contention here? Are we seeing environmentalists pushing back due to the possible impact on marine life, on local livelihoods?
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And you are right. Perhaps, the energy side of things is really a dilemma that all of us have to deal with. Some call it the energy trilemma, where you have to think about energy access and you have to think about sustainability and then affordability on the other side. For when you take those three, sometimes they can feel or sound like they're at odds, but then you have to find a way to be able to get there. And our approach is that, we have been applying in the context of the South African law, we've been applying for environmental authorizations to can be able to do exploration off the coast of South Africa in the number of blocks that we have. And in those environmental authorization applications, we always bring to bear the mitigating or our environmental program that we're going to put in place to make sure that the negative environmental impact is actually minimized. But in some of the rulings that we have had, obviously, we have found that perhaps, we're not always getting what we thought we were going to get as we proceed with the processes. And some of the resistance has been, I think, a convolution between what we call exploration and production. So, for instance, if you say to me at an exploration ride where I don't know whether I will even find the oil or the gas, and you say to me, tell me what will be the quantity of emissions you'll have during production, that's a very difficult question to answer because you just don't have the answer for that. You will only know if you are successful in your exploration and you know how much you're then going to be able to get as the resources. So some of the questions is really about when does the question become an exploration question? When does it become a production question? But at this point in time, we just don't know what is the potential in the South African coast.
And then I ask myself, is the risk worth taking then, Alwani?
Is the risk worth taking?
Yes.
I'll take a different sector. Take mining. There are risks related to mining, as it were. But we've been mining in this country for a number of years. And as you mine, you start to have standards in terms of how you deal with the environment, how you deal with people in operations. So it's the same thing as you look at deep water exploration. As a company, we have global experience of operating in this space safely and also still protecting the environment. And our view is, we just need to have the right framework that then ensures that you can produce while also preserving the environment on the other side. And you say, is the risk worth it? As it were, South Africa is highly reliant on imports of oil and gas products today. And should we find, viable resources off the coast of South Africa, that could be a game changer for the economy and could be the game changer for the energy security of the country at large. So I believe that with the right mitigations in place, then it will be worthwhile for the country should we find the resources.
And from my understanding, we're not even, at the point where exploration is actually taking place. Shell is still pursuing those seismic surveys to gauge the resources. Of course, we've been talking about whether there is offshore energy potential. Take us through that process and why it must be done.
I think, and you're right, we are still in exploration, and I think maybe as a principle, I think for the country like South Africa, I would just think that first it would be good for us to determine do we even have these resources, these oil and gas resources of our shores? And this is where exploration then comes in. And in the process of exploration, one of the first steps you do is seismic surveys or 3D seismic surveys, first to determine, is there any, hydrocarbons trapped under the seabed, as it were? And then that will then be followed up by what will be exploration wells to really go down and confirm if what you're seeing on the imaging is really true and is also commercially viable on the other side. So in South Africa was still in very, very early stages of not even being able to find out what we have on the other side. So for me, I would just think that rationally it says, let's first figure out exactly what is it that we have. And then as we figure it out and then deal with, what are the potential risks and the upsides of us even exploring. But without knowing the extent of the resources that we have and just go, let's not even explore it all. It's a very difficult thing.
And I mean, on the other side of this, we've seen oil majors across the globe, Aluwani, dealing with mounting pressure as the world moves to a greener society. How are you mitigating those risks? I mean, you spoke about, yes, we need to have frameworks to sort of deal with the matter, but how are you navigating that environment?
We believe as Shell that we are operating within a global environment that's changing, an energy landscape that's changing, and therefore our commitment is to be net zero by 2050. So we are pushing really towards that. But we also realize that for us to be able to get to net zero by 2050, you still need to be able to have, first of all, gas or an LNG will become the core sources of energy you need to be able to drive towards the transition. We already know that gas and LNG has less emissions compared to coal, for instance, in terms of your electricity production on the other side. And therefore, for us, we will need gas, we will need LNG to be able to transition. But while we're at it, you will also continue to need to have stable supply of liquid fuels as we move towards 2050. So it's not that we're not oblivious, but we understand that it's a balanced transition. It's not a knee-jerk reaction of just saying, let's stop all the oil and gas. Because today, for instance, if you were to just stop all the petroleum products, then it would mean that as a country we will not be moving at all.
All right, let's leave it there. Aluwani, thanks so much for your time and joining us this afternoon. That was Aluwani Musaisi, Country Chair for Shell Downstream SA.